Most people want to believe in themselves more, but they don't know how. We're not really taught practical steps in creating a relationship with ourselves, much less in how to believe in ourselves. Now, think about this. When you were born, who were you? What was your potential when you were first born? So let this idea sink in. Naturally, we are exactly the same as when we were born. Now we have skills, maturity, knowledge, and experiences, but in essence, we are exactly the same as we were naturally born, full of potential. The only difference between then and now are the experiences that created our limitations and what we think that we're capable of. When you're a newborn baby, you don't have any limitations on who you think you can be. Obviously, a baby isn't thinking about who they are or who they could be. But in essence, what are they capable of? What is the potential? That potential has never changed. It's still there. The only thing that has changed are the beliefs surrounding that potential, the limiting ideas that we develop over time that put filters over our own potential. Do you ever wish that you had unlimited beliefs about yourself, meaning that you were capable of anything? That newborn baby that a parent is looking at is capable of anything. Do you ever wonder if you believed in yourself more, what could you accomplish? What would you be capable of? And the truth is that we're only capable of achieving what we believe we're capable of achieving. But that does not mean that's what we are limited to. It's just a belief. So then, if you can expand that belief, then you're capable of achieving much more. So then you have to work on expanding that belief about yourself. Creating new self beliefs take consistent effort. If you choose not to create new self beliefs, you'll only be capable of accomplishing what you have already accomplished. And to exceed your own current potential means that you have to expand on those beliefs. Most people think that they need to work harder to achieve more. And that's the typical route most people take because it's the only route that they know. And it is true that new self beliefs can come from new experiences. And so, yes, you can work harder, have more challenges that create new beliefs, or you can actually choose to just create new beliefs rather than going out and pushing yourself so far. And oftentimes, even if you do take that route, there are a lot of limitations because every time you're going to hit up against a brick wall at some point and need to expand even further and challenge yourself even harder. And eventually that becomes exhausting and overwhelming. So, to create a new belief about yourself, it takes time. You can choose to continue to look at yourself as you do now, or you can actually begin to see who you really are. And it does take a dedicated effort and desire to want to fully accept your true self and not the self that you are conditioned to believe that you are. Most of our beliefs, our self beliefs, are unconscious, meaning we're not fully aware of them. Sometimes they might creep up a little bit, but a lot of times they stay in the background. Most people are not aware of their limitations that they've created about themselves and their self beliefs. So then ask yourself, how do you think others look at you? What do you believe their opinions are of you? These are ideas that have been personally identified with and have become who you think you are. They have been reflected through situations and circumstances, creating a mental picture of who you believe you are now. Now ask yourself, do you ever assume someone is thinking negatively about who you are? Do you ever think someone is judging you in some way? And do you actually have evidence of it, or is that an assumption you're making? Either way, it doesn't matter. It still creates a lasting impact. Whatever this story looks like for you, these beliefs about yourself were not consciously created by you. You have the power to consciously create your own self beliefs, meaning, how do you want to believe about yourself? You have that power. Most of the time, we have allowed previous circumstances to imprint emotional pains into our psyche, creating a picture of who we think the world was saying we were. So, just to give, and for instance, let's say you are somebody that loses jobs a lot. So, you find a job, you get fired or laid off a lot. Eventually, you start believing that it is because you don't have skills, abilities, or in some cases, you might even say, I'm a loser. You might say it like that. And that's because you believe that that's how others would be looking back at you in that situation. Over time, you begin to personally identify those ideas. Now, no one may have actually ever said you were a loser, and no one may have ever even commented on the fact that you can't hold a job. But these ideas are imprinted within based on our experiences. Then going forward in the next job, you're assuming the same things that have happened before, and that if you fail or if something happens, that again, you have to go back to that identity that you're a loser. And it creates a lot of fear. A lot of times, it'll create so much fear after repetition, that some people will not even make any moves to do anything in their life. The point being that no one consciously decides that they want to believe these negative things about themselves. Now, once these negative self beliefs are created, it takes work to overcome them. So each and every one of those imprints are carried into the present experience, and they create an unconscious belief about yourself. Our pains and our losses create deep, lasting imprints that can be difficult to overcome. And oftentimes we accept these imprints as this is who we are, and this is not who you are. This is just a mental conditioning of circumstances that have already happened. And now your mind carries it as a truth, but it's a distortion of the truth. So again, ask yourself, when you were born, who were you? What were you capable of? What was your potential? Has that actually changed? Or has it just been your experiences that have made you think differently about it? Situations and circumstances have nothing to do with who you are. Now, they have defined you to this point because, well, we just haven't known how to not let it define us. We've allowed it to limit our ability to see ourselves truly. But when we can develop the tools and the skills to consciously empower ourselves to decide who we actually are, then we can create new self beliefs. So, then how would you create a belief about a newborn baby? What are some ways that you would describe a newborn baby? Beautiful, perfect, true love, the world at your fingertips, capable of anything. That is all of who you are right now. Now, can you believe that about yourself? And if you don't see yourself this way, well, you are probably 99% of society. Yet you can be that 1% if you really want to. If you really desire to see yourself truly. And it does take some work. Now, I personally don't believe anybody ever reaches their full potential. I don't think it's possible because I think potential is so unlimited that we haven't even begun to tap into what that looks like. However, let's get a little bit closer to our potential. So I have created 3 different steps that will help create new self-beliefs to help you tap into a little bit more of that potential. The first one is based on grandiosity and really seeing yourself bigger than what you might even think is possible. I'll explain why that's so important to create an idea that's so big that you may not ever achieve, but that's the whole point, is it's always forward momentum towards something greater. So this has a lot to do with your own personal individual desire of what you want for yourself. What do you see yourself accomplishing? Now forget about what you think is possible. What do you want to accomplish? Do you want to single-handedly save the world? I mean, something grandiose. It's the whole idea. But it's not about what you do. It's about the feelings that it creates inside you of what you feel when you are capable of something great. I mean, just to give you an idea, let's say you like to garden, and in your visualization of your potential, you can visualize that you create a new strand of an herb that cures cancer. Um, anything that's meaningful to you is the whole idea, and it has to be a bigger than self idea. Bigger than self, and then tapping into the feeling of having accomplished it. Because when you tap into the feeling of it, you are now creating a new programming within your unconscious mind to feel something that you have not felt before, and it will need to be expressed. Every time you visit those feelings, you are creating the program within your mind to move that potential forward. Right now, all of that potential is lying dormant within you. You have to activate it. It is your responsibility to personally activate it by telling it, let's go, wake up, it's time, I'm ready. And you may not fully believe this potential yet. And like I said, it's such a big, huge, grandiose idea. Maybe you'll never reach that full potential, but it will activate the dormant energy that's lying within you right now. When you are activating dormant energy, you energize it. So every time you feel those feelings, you're energizing that potential. And what happens when you energize something? It begins to move. It has to move. It has to express. All of that potential has to go somewhere. And over time, you'll come to understand more of what I mean by this, but it becomes inspired action. You start moving in ways that you hadn't moved before. It becomes very natural to do this. When I am doing this, I always remind myself 99% of all matter is just energy. Therefore, 99% of energy is unrealized potential, unutilized, and dormant because it's not being observed. It must be observed in order for it to be activated. The second actionable step is to celebrate every single accomplishment that you do, as if you won the Nobel Peace Prize. I realize that this one can be a little bit harder to keep up with, but at the end of the day, usually what I personally do is I'll review my day and I'll think of all the things that I did that I'm proud of myself about and all the things that I did that I didn't want to do that I made myself do. And I will literally exaggerate each and every one of those accomplishments because I am creating a celebration within myself. I am celebrating everything that I did. So then what you're doing is you're creating a mental program of acknowledging yourself and being proud of yourself. Instead of that mental program that is critical and says all the things that you didn't do, it creates a mental program of all the wonderful things that you did do. And who doesn't like to be acknowledged and validated? Who doesn't like to be celebrated and appreciated? When you tap really deep into those feelings of truly being celebrated, it creates such a wonderful harmony of self trust and in your own relationship with yourself. So, how easy do you think it would be to believe in your own potential if you were only critical of yourself? Someone that is only critical cannot acknowledge accomplishments. And so, if you look at it like that if you are not capable of acknowledging your accomplishments, then each time you actually do accomplish something, you're only going to be critical of it anyway. So the more you can validate yourself and appreciate yourself for every small win, the big wins just increase and increase and increase until your potential has expanded because your belief about yourself has expanded. When you are critical of yourself, then it's like telling yourself that no matter what you do, it has no significance or value. That creates an underlying anger and resentment towards yourself, which limits you even further. So then what that does is it just keeps you from wanting to try something new. It keeps you from being able to even see a reason or a purpose. So celebrate yourself as often as possible for the smallest things and make it big. Make it really, really big. And eventually that can level out where you don't have to do it in that way anymore. But in the beginning, it's really important to start creating those connections in a really big way and make sure that you feel the feelings of that celebration. And the third step is a little difficult for some people, but I know for me personally, it's really changed my perception of myself and my appreciation for myself. And that is to look at yourself through someone else's eyes. Someone that loves you, cares about you, and appreciates you. If you can look at yourself through their eyes, it will really create a new perception of yourself. So if you can just think of someone that looks up to you or admires you or just loves you, then if you were them, how would you think about yourself? And how would you feel about yourself? And obviously, these are going to all be positive feelings because this is somebody that loves and appreciates you. So it is very similar to how limiting beliefs were created, except that now you're using the possible beliefs and opinions and thoughts of somebody that only respects you and has admiration for you. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that these are their true thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and opinions of you, but it is your perception of that. That's why this can be a little harder to tap into because if you haven't actually created the perception within yourself of all your positive traits, it can be harder to see that at first. You will get there though. It'll get easier as you've been doing some of the other things or just been working on some of your own limiting beliefs about yourself. This becomes very easy, and it'll become easy to do it with just about anybody. If you have trouble with this one thing that you can do also is if you journal or if you do any kind of writing or drawing, looking back at those things and seeing yourself as the person that you were creating that material, whether it's journaling or whatever it is, and thinking of yourself outside of yourself. So, looking at your younger self or a different version of yourself and appreciating that person from your eyes. So, those are the 3 steps that I have found that work really well. And I have found that all 3 of them are important because they activate 3 different types of levels of consciousness. And it's important to get all 3 of them working together as a team. And that is the hope to bring more coherent and holistic thinking. You want to bring all of the best parts of you together to work in organization and as a team. And it's amazing what you can accomplish when you do that. When they aren't working together, there's just a lot of confusion and imbalance. So then ask yourself, why wouldn't you try it? There's not anything to lose, and there's everything to gain.